Hi there, this is Ranjit and I have the Samsung Galaxy Grand Max with me, and in this video we'll be doing the full review for this device. And I've been using this device as my secondary device for almost 2 odd weeks. And this is sort of a mid-range Android device by Samsung. In India it sells for around 15,000. And that works out to be around $250 and it's a pretty decent device, I would say, but not extraordinary, because we also have the Samsung Galaxy E series devices. And talking about this device sports a 5.25-inch IPS grade screen that has a resolution of 720p HD. And I would say the screen quality is pretty decent for the most part for IPS grade screen. But if we start comparing with the Galaxy E5, because the pricing of the Galaxy E5 is also very near to that, I would say the Galaxy E5 has a much vibrant screen. But don't get me wrong, as you can see, the quality of the screen on this device is also pretty good. And let me actually give you a physical overview and then we'll continue. On the top we have the 3.5mm headphone jack, and we have an indent to open the back cover. The back cover can be opened. We have the power button over here, and again this is plastic, this is not metal. Moving towards the bottom, we have the micro USB slot, main microphone, and on this end we have the volume rocker. Moving towards the back, you'll see this interesting back. It is patterned, so it actually gives a very good grip. We have a 13 megapixel rear facing camera with LED flash, and this is the opening for the speaker. We have this Samsung branding, and as I mentioned, we can open this back cover and that reveals the battery. The battery is a 2500 milliamp hour battery, and this is a dual SIM device, and you can also add a micro SD card up to 64 gigs. And I did all my testing with a single SIM, and I would say the battery life is actually pretty good on this device thanks to the Snapdragon 410 chipset used on this one. That's a quad-core processor, but it's actually pretty power efficient. Hence, even in terms of battery life, it was pretty good. Moving towards this front, we have a 5 megapixel camera, some sensors. We also have auto brightness sensor, the 5.25-inch screen, and on the bottom we have these two touch type capacitive buttons. This is for the multitasking and this is for the back. But one thing I do notice, though it is backlit as you can see, but it does not provide any haptic feedback when we click. And I also noticed that haptic feedback was also not there. The vibration motor is there, but Samsung has disabled the haptic feedback, so it's sort of silly. Good thing is that it has an auto brightness sensor, as you can see, and it works for the most part. And these are the settings, but let's look at the Android version first. And as you can see, it's running on the Android version 4.4.4, that is KitKat. And as of now, I'm not very sure if this device will get the Lollipop update or not, so not sure about it. Good thing is that it comes with the 16 gigs of internal storage, so we have ample storage, and as I mentioned, we can also add a micro SD card, so storage should not be an issue with this device. Another good thing is that it comes with 1.5 gigs of RAM, so even with the normal usage that I did for day-to-day activities, it actually performs pretty well in my opinion. Now let me give you a configuration overview. This device is powered by the Snapdragon 410 chipset, which is a quad-core processor clocked at 1.2 GHz. It has 1.5 gigs of RAM, 16 gigs of internal storage, a 2500 milliamp hour battery, a 13 megapixel rear-facing camera, and a 5 megapixel front-facing camera. The handset is not the lightest, I would say. It weighs 161 grams, so it's slightly on the heavier side in my opinion. And one thing that I'm really annoyed with Samsung is that, yes, I understand Samsung likes to differentiate its products. Though it's a big device, anything above 5 inches, I would say it's a decently big device. Samsung has omitted the multi-window support on this, which is pretty silly in my opinion. We don't have any multi-window options on this device. So we simply don't have that, and I'm pretty annoyed with Samsung for doing that. And we also don't have any LED notification light, and I also tested it with USB OTG, and that functionality was also not there. So these are some of the things that are missing on this device, but we do get this theme support, so you can change the themes. These are the default themes that we have, but do note that we cannot download any extra themes, but this theme functionality is there, and for the most part it works actually pretty well. And I would say in day-to-day performance, the performance of this device was actually pretty good, and I did not notice any major stuttering or lagginess that we generally see with TouchWiz. So Samsung in that respect did a pretty good job, and the phone is pretty responsive. Now if we move to the cellular call quality, that also I was getting with this device was excellent, and in general the overall performance of this device was pretty decent in my opinion. And again, I like this dimpled back. It actually provides a very good grip on this device. And if you move to the multi-touch points, it has 5 multi-touch points and it works actually pretty well. I also did some gaming with this device, and I even played some heavy games with it, and it could play all those games without any issues. Another good thing that I noticed is that even after extended gaming, the device did not exhibit any overheating issues. So it's a pretty decent device, and the performance was also pretty decent in my opinion. Now let me actually fire up the web browser and let me show you the web browsing. Again, it performs actually pretty well. Again, as you can see, it's going to take me, and this is the full desktop version, and as you can see, the pinch to zoom etc is very responsive. And in terms of web browsing, I would say it actually handled everything very well, and it loads the web pages etc also pretty quickly, as you can see. So in terms of web browsing, it performed actually very well. And let me also now talk about the camera. The camera is a 13 megapixel rear facing camera, and I would say for the general most part, I would say the camera performance is actually pretty good on this device. And in fact, I have already posted a dedicated video regarding the camera performance, so you can check out that for more samples. And I would say the camera is pretty decent. The 13 megapixel rear facing camera does actually a pretty good job, and it has even a front facing camera that's a 5 megapixel shooter. And I would say the 5 megapixel shooter for selfies etc is also actually very good, but not the best. In fact, I would say the Galaxy E5 that also has a front facing camera, which is a 5 megapixel shooter, takes better videos than the front facing camera on this Grand Max. So in terms of camera, I would say if you take a lot of picture with the rear facing camera, then this Grand Max might be better. But if you are a sort of a selfie person, then the Galaxy E5 has a better camera. So to sum it up, I would say this Grand Max is a pretty decent mid-range device by Samsung. But now let's break it down between the pros and cons. Let's first talk about the pros. The first is the general performance of this device. The performance is actually pretty decent. Also, it has that FM radio and stuff, and it works pretty well. Also, the fact is that it has a removable battery, so it's nice. Lately, many of the Samsung mid-range phones don't have that, but we have a removable battery with this. Also, in terms of battery life, the battery life that I was getting was actually pretty good. Next, if we talk about the cellular call quality, that was also really good. And again, as I mentioned, the 13 megapixel rear facing camera is also pretty decent. Now let's move to the cons. I would say the screen quality is pretty good, but the contrast levels could have been slightly better. Also, it does not have the USB OTG support or even a LED notification light. But the biggest bummer for me is no support for multi-window. Samsung really ditched that, and I don't know why they did that. And this device also does not support any 4G LTE support. So it's strictly a 2G and a 3G device. So these are some of the cons with this device. So again, you got to decide if this device is okay for you. And for the general performance, I would say this device is actually pretty good. And if you're looking for a mid-range device by Samsung in this price range, and removable battery and proper dual SIM support is important for you, then you can certainly have a look at the Samsung Galaxy Grand Max. I've also posted several other videos on this Grand Max, so make sure you check them out. And if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching this video. This is Ranjit, and I hope to see you in my next video.